The sandwich was good. Not great, but good enough. Priya Sharma chewed slowly, watching the red planet grow larger through the viewport. Around her, aliens were crying, praying, and reviewing survival manuals with shaking hands. A Kelethi in the seat next to her had vomited twice already. The transport ship was a symphony of fear. Priya took another bite. Varka, 7 filled the window now. A world of rust-colored jungles and permanent storm clouds. The Coalition called it a training ground. Everyone else called it a death sentence. All participants report to drop pod stations, the announcement echoed. Deathworld insertion in 15 minutes. The Kelethi next to her made a sound like a dying animal. His name was Ryan, according to the partner assignment she had received that morning. Tall, thin, with 4 arms and pale blue skin. His species was known across the galaxy as the most adaptable. They had colonized more worlds than any other race. Right now, he looked ready to pass out. Want some? Priya offered him her sandwich. Ryan stared at her like she had grown a second head. We are about to die on that planet. How can you eat? Because I'm hungry. She shrugged. Also, no food down there. Might as well fill up now. The briefing had been clear. 30 days on the surface. 400 kilometers to the extraction beacon. No weapons. No rescue. The average mortality rate was 60%, and that was for species who had been doing this for centuries. Earth had joined the Galactic Coalition 5 years ago. Humans had never participated in the Deathworld training before. The other species expected them to die within hours. Priya finished her sandwich and started on some dried fruit. Instructor Brock, a massive reptilian creature covered in scars, had laughed when he saw her name on the list. A human diplomat with no military training. He gave her 12 hours, maximum. She had smiled at him and asked where she could find snacks. You do not understand, Ryan said, his 4 hands gripping his seat. Varka, 7 has 1.3 times standard gravity. The air has toxic pockets. The predators hunt in packs. My sister trained here 8 years ago. She failed. The shame still haunts our family. I'm sorry about your sister. She lived, but she did not complete the training. In Kelethi culture, that is worse than death. Priya nodded slowly. She understood pressure. She understood expectations. She had grown up in the Himalayas, where the mountains did not care about your feelings. She had worked as a wilderness guide in the Amazon, where nature tried to kill you every single day. Earth, she had learned recently, was classified as a Class 7 hazard world by the Coalition. Extreme temperature variations, abundant predators, unpredictable weather, seismic activity, toxic plants, and animals everywhere. Humans just called it home. Report to drop pods, the announcement repeated. 5 minutes to insertion. The other passengers stood on shaking legs. Priya stood steadily and stretched her back. The gravity on this ship was lighter than Earth. She had been feeling almost floaty for days. Varka, 7's gravity would feel normal to her. Ryan walked beside her toward the pod bay. His 4 arms kept fidgeting with his survival pack, checking and rechecking its contents. Priya carried her pack loosely over one shoulder. You are insane, Ryan muttered. Or stupid. I cannot decide which. Maybe both. She smiled at him. But I've been through worse. Worse than a death world. I once got lost in a blizzard at 6,000 meters with a broken compass and half a protein bar. She paused. The protein bar was stale, too. Ryan did not seem to know how to respond. They reached their assigned pod. It was small, barely enough room for 2. The interior was padded, but not comfortable. A screen displayed their landing zone and the beacon location. 400 kilometers of hostile jungle between them. Priya climbed in first. Ryan followed, his long limbs folding awkwardly. Pods launching in 60 seconds, the system announced. The bay doors opened beneath them. Varka, 7 waited below, wreathed in clouds and lightning. Ryan began to hyperventilate. His species had 3 lungs, and all of them were working overtime. His pale blue skin had turned almost white. Hey, Priya touched his arm. Look at me. He looked. His eyes were wide with terror. We're going to survive this, she said calmly. Both of us. Together. Okay, you cannot promise that. No, but I can promise I won't give up. and I won't leave you behind. The pod shuddered. The launch countdown reached 0. They dropped. The fall was violent. The pod screamed through the atmosphere, shaking so hard that Priya's teeth rattled. Heat built around them as friction tore at the hull. Warning lights flashed. Alarms blared. Ryan was screaming. Priya closed her eyes, braced herself, and smiled. She had been through worse turbulence on a small plane over Nepal. The pilot had been drunk. They had landed sideways in a rice paddy. She had tipped him anyway because he told good jokes. The parachutes deployed. The pod jerked hard, slowing their descent. Through the tiny viewport, Priya could see the jungle rising to meet them. Red leaves. Thick canopy. Bioluminescent something glowing between the trees that it looked beautiful and deadly. Just like home. The pod hit the ground with a bone-jarring crash. Systems failed. Lights died. The hatch blew open, flooding the interior with humid, acidic air. Ryan groaned. Priya was already unbuckling her harness. "Ready?" she asked. Ryan looked at her like she was the most terrifying thing he had ever seen. Priya grabbed her pack and stepped out into hell. She looked around at the alien jungle, took a deep breath of the slightly poisonous air, and said the words that would haunt Ryan for weeks. "Reminds me of home." Something was watching them from the trees. Priya could feel it. That prickle on the back of her neck. That ancient warning system that had kept her ancestors alive for millions of years. Predator. Close. Waiting. She kept walking like nothing was wrong. Ryan stumbled beside her, his forearms clutching his tablet, scanning everything around them. The device beeped constantly with threat warnings. Toxic plant. Dangerous insect. Unstable ground. The entire planet was trying to kill them. "The air quality is worse than projected," Ryan said, his voice tight. "Acidic content is at dangerous levels for prolonged exposure. Smells like the industrial district back in Delhi." Priya shrugged. "Less curry, though. They had been walking for 3 hours. The jungle was thick, wet, and alive with sounds she could not identify. Bioluminescent fungi glowed on tree trunks. Insects the size of her fist buzzed past. The gravity pulled at her muscles in a way that felt almost comfortable. Ryan was struggling. His species had evolved on a low-gravity world. Here, every step cost him extra effort. Sweat dripped from his pale blue skin. "We should rest," he gasped. "Not here." Priya pointed up. "Something's tracking us. Has been since we landed." Ryan's head snapped up. His forearms gripped his tablet tighter. "What? Where?" "My scanners show nothing. Your scanners are looking for technology. This thing doesn't have any." She led them to a small clearing with better sight lines. Then she stopped, turned around, and stared directly at the shadows between the trees. "Come on then," she said loudly. "Let's see you." The creature emerged slowly. 6 legs, armored body, teeth like knives. It was the size of a tiger, built for ambush and murder. Its eyes were fixed on Ryan, identifying him as the weaker target. Ryan made a sound like a dying whistle. Priya picked up a rock. The creature tensed, ready to pounce. Priya stood her ground. She made herself look bigger, shoulders back, chin up. She stared directly into its eyes and growled. Not a human sound. Something older. Something from deep in her throat. The creature hesitated. Prey did not act like this. Prey ran. Prey screamed. Prey did not growl back. Priya took a step forward. The creature took a step back. She growled again, louder, and raised the rock. The creature turned and vanished into the jungle. Ryan collapsed against a tree. "How did you do that?" "Predators don't like fair fights." Priya dropped the rock. "They want easy meals. I just had to look like more trouble than I was worth. But it could have killed you easily." It didn't know that. Confidence is half the battle. She helped him up, and they kept moving. The beacon was still almost 400 kilometers away. 15 kilometers a day through this nightmare. It seemed impossible. Priya had done harder treks with heavier packs. As evening approached, she found a sheltered spot between large rocks. Good cover. Defensible. She gathered dry wood and started building a fire. Ryan watched with confusion. "What are you doing?" "Making fire." "With what equipment?" "No equipment." She found 2 suitable sticks and began the friction method. Spin, press, spin, press. Smoke began to rise. Just skill. Ryan's tablet nearly fell from his forehands. Your species can create fire manually? Without tools. We've been doing it for about 400,000 years. The smoke thickened. An ember glowed. Priya transferred it carefully to her prepared tinder. Flames caught and grew. It's not hard once you know how. The Kelathi never developed fire mastery. Our homeworld was too wet, too cold. We waited until we invented technology. Humans couldn't wait. We had to adapt or die. Priya fed the fire carefully. So we adapted. She pulled out some of the plants she had gathered during their walk. Ryan watched with horror as she began preparing them. Those are untested. They could be poisonous. Probably. Priya sniffed one, checking for familiar warning signs. But humans have something called a liver. It filters toxins. We also have a long history of eating questionable things. On purpose. We eat food that burns our mouths for fun. We drink poison recreationally and call it alcohol. We consume a stimulant called caffeine every single morning just to function. She took a small bite of a leaf, chewed, and waited. My species is basically built to survive bad decisions. No reaction. She ate more. Ryan looked like his entire understanding of the universe was breaking down. That night, they heard other drop pods crashing in the distance. Then screaming. Then silence. Priya did not react. She checked their perimeter, banked the fire, and told Ryan to sleep. "What about you?" he asked. "I'll take first watch. You need rest too. Humans can function on less sleep than most species. Something about our history. We were prey before we were predators. Sleeping too deeply got you eaten." Ryan lay down, but he could not close his eyes. He watched Priya's silhouette against the firelight. She sat perfectly still, perfectly calm, her eyes scanning the darkness. She did not look scared. She did not look worried. She looked like she belonged here. Ryan finally understood why the Coalition classified Earth as a hazard world. It was not because the planet was dangerous that it was because it produced creatures like her that he slept. And for the first time since landing, he dreamed of survival instead of death. The bodies were still warm. Priya knelt beside the remains of two Veloxi, a crystalline species known for their beauty and fragility. A rockslide had caught them. Their bodies had shattered like glass across the jungle floor. Thousands of glittering shards reflected the dim light. She touched one piece gently, a moment of respect for the fallen. Ryan stood back, his four arms wrapped around himself. "Does it not affect you? Seeing death. It affects me." Priya stood slowly. "That's why I keep moving. Standing still won't bring them back." They had been traveling for 5 days. Ryan's joints ached constantly from the gravity. His ration packs were running low. But he was still alive, which was more than he had expected. The human had surprised him every single day that a sound cut through the jungle. Voices. Kelathi voices. Priya raised her hand, signaling Ryan to stop. They crept forward carefully and found 3 more Kelathi huddled in a small cave. 2 were standing. One was lying on the ground, bleeding badly from a wound in his side. Ryan recognized them. They were from a different training group. The standing Kelathi raised their weapons when they saw Priya. Primitive spears made from sharpened branches. "Wait," Ryan stepped forward. "She is with me. She is friendly. A human." One of the Kelathi spat. "They are savages. Meat eaters. Predators." Priya ignored the insult. Her eyes were on the injured one. "How long ago did that happen?" The Kelathi hesitated. 6 hours. A creature attacked us. We drove it off, but not before it wounded Drell." Priya walked past them without permission. She knelt beside Drell and examined his wound. Deep, still bleeding, possibly infected already. "What are you doing?" the first Kelathi demanded. "Helping." She opened her pack and pulled out strips of cloth she had prepared. "Hold him still. This is going to hurt." She worked quickly, cleaned the wound with filtered water, applied pressure to stop the bleeding, created a tourniquet above the injury, elevated his leg. The Kelathi medic in the group watched with wide eyes. "You know medicine? Wilderness medicine. Humans developed it because we kept getting hurt in remote places." Priya tied off the bandage. "He'll need proper treatment eventually, but this will keep him alive for now." Drell groaned, but his color was already improving. The first Kelathi, whose name was Tan, lowered his spear slowly. "Why help us? We were rude to you because you needed help. Priya stood and wiped blood from her hands. That's enough reason. They traveled together after that. 6 survivors moving through the hostile jungle. Priya naturally took point, scouting ahead for danger. The Kelethi followed in a tight group, carrying Drell between them. Ryan noticed how the others watched Priya. She moved too quietly. She sensed threats before they appeared. She ate things that should have killed her and smiled. What is wrong with her? Tan whispered to Ryan. Nothing is wrong, Ryan answered quietly. This is what humans are. On the 7th day, they reached a massive ravine. It cut across their path like a wound in the earth, 200 meters deep with sheer walls of unstable rock. The only way around would add 3 days to their journey, days they did not have. We cannot climb this, Tan said. It is impossible. Priya was already examining the cliff face. She tested handholds, checked the rock quality, measured angles with her eyes. I can make it down, she said finally. Then I can rig ropes for the rest of you. Ryan grabbed her arm. That is suicide. The rock is unstable. One wrong move and you fall. Humans like climbing. Priya smiled at him. We do it for fun back home. Mountains, cliffs, buildings. If it's vertical, someone has probably tried to climb it. For fun. Ryan did not understand the word in this context. Recreation. Entertainment. Some people find it relaxing. The Kelethi exchanged confused looks. A species that climbed deadly surfaces for entertainment. What kind of world produced such madness? Priya began her descent. She moved slowly, carefully, reading the rock like a language only she could understand. Her fingers found holds that seemed invisible. Her feet placed themselves with perfect precision. Ryan watched from above, his heart's pounding. One slip, one loose stone, one moment of weakness. That was all it would take, but Priya did not slip. She reached the bottom 20 minutes later, landing softly on the ravine floor. She looked up at them, gave a thumbs up, and began searching for anchor points. The Kelethi stared in disbelief. I thought humans were supposed to be the weakest species in the coalition, Tan murmured. Physically, perhaps. Ryan watched Priya work below. But weakness is not the same as fragility. And fragility is not the same as helplessness. Priya signaled that the ropes were ready. One by one, the Kelethi descended, guided by her careful system. Ryan went last. As his feet touched the ravine floor, he heard something. A low rumble. Movement in the shadows ahead. Priya had heard it too. Her body had gone still, her eyes fixed on the darkness. Get the others down faster, she said quietly. We're not alone down here. Something large was coming. Something hungry. And they were trapped at the bottom of a cliff with nowhere to run. Priya picked up a sharp rock and faced the shadows. She was not afraid. She was ready. The Varka WYRM was beautiful in the worst possible way. IT emerged from the ravine shadows like a nightmare, given flesh. 6 legs, armored scales that shimmered with bioluminescence. A head full of teeth designed for one purpose only. Ryan's tablet identified it instantly. Apex predator, pack hunter, known to toy with prey before killing. Priya stood between the creature and her group. She held nothing but a sharp rock. Get the others up the cliff, she said calmly. Now, I will not leave you, Ryan protested. You will, because someone needs to protect them while they climb. Her eyes never left the WYRM. Go, Ryan. He went. He hated himself for it, but he went. The WYRM circled Priya slowly, confused by her behavior. Prey was supposed to run. Prey was supposed to scream. This small creature just stood there, watching, waiting. Priya made herself look bigger. Shoulders back, arms wide. She bared her teeth and growled. The WYRM paused, uncertain. Then a second WYRM emerged from the shadows behind her. 2 of them now, flanking her. Professional hunters working together. Priya's heart raced, but her face showed nothing. She had faced tigers in India. She had been charged by elephants in Africa. She had survived a crocodile attack by punching it in the eye. Fear was familiar. Fear was useful. Fear kept you sharp. But fear did not mean surrender. The first WYRM lunged. Priya dove sideways, rolled, came up with her rock ready. She struck at its eye as it passed. Not hard enough to blind, but hard enough to hurt. The creature screamed and pulled back. The second WYRM attacked immediately. Priya barely dodged, feeling claws tear through her shirt and scrape her ribs. Pain exploded across her side. She did not stop. Humans were persistence hunters. Their ancestors had chased prey across African plains for hours, days, waiting for the target to collapse from exhaustion. They could not outrun most animals. They could outlast them. Priya kept moving, dodging, striking at sensitive spots, eyes, joints, the soft tissue under the jaw. She could not kill these things, but she could hurt them. The WIRMS grew frustrated. This prey was too fast, too unpredictable. Every attack cost them pain. Point 1 WIRM finally caught her. Jaws closed around her arm, teeth sinking in. Priya screamed, but she did not freeze. She jammed her rock into the creature's nostril and twisted. The WIRM released her, shaking its head violently. And it made a strange sound, gagging, retching, her blood. It tasted wrong. Priya had been eating the spicy plants she found in the jungle. Capsaicin, the chemical that made peppers hot, had seeped into her system. Her blood was burning the WRM's mouth. The creature retreated, confused and hurting. The second WIRM looked at its partner, then at Priya. She was bleeding, injured, exhausted, but she was still standing, still ready to fight. The WIRMS exchanged a look that seemed almost like communication. Then both turned and vanished into the shadows. Priya collapsed against the cliff wall. Ryan was beside her in seconds. The others had made it up. He had come back down for her. "You impossible creature," he said, his 4 hands pressing cloth against her wounds. "You fought 2 apex predators with a rock. Wasn't really fighting." Priya laughed weakly, then winced. More like aggressive negotiation. "You are bleeding everywhere. Humans bleed a lot. Looks worse than it is." She let him bandage her arm. "The important thing is everyone's safe." "What?" Ryan demanded. "Why risk your life for us? We are strangers. Some of us were rude to you." Priya looked up at him. Her eyes were tired but clear. "Because that's what you do," she said simply. "When people need help, you help. When monsters come, you stand in front. It's not complicated. On my world, survival is about self-preservation. The strong survive. The weak are left behind. On my world, we learn something different." Priya struggled to her feet with his help. "Alone, we're prey. Together, we're the most dangerous thing on any planet." They climbed up the cliff together, Ryan half carrying her. The other Kelethi were waiting at the top. Their expressions changed. They no longer looked at Priya with suspicion or fear. They looked at her with something like respect. That night, around a small fire in a hidden cave, Tin asked the question they were all thinking. "What is your world like? The world that made something like you?" Priya stared into the flames. Her arm was bandaged. Her ribs ached, but she smiled. "Beautiful," she said. "Mountains that touch the sky. Oceans that go forever. Forests older than your civilization. It sounds peaceful." "No," she shook her head. "It's dangerous. Everything wants to eat you, poison you, or crush you. The weather can kill you in hours. The ground shakes. The water rises. Fire sweeps across entire continents." The Kelethi were silent. "But it's home," Priya continued softly. "And it made us what we are. Not the strongest species. Not the fastest. Not the smartest. But we don't give up. We adapt. We survive. We help each other." She looked around at the group. Injured, exhausted, scared, still alive. "That's what humans do," she said. "We keep going until there's nowhere left to go." Ryan watched her close her eyes and rest against the cave wall. He was beginning to understand. Humans were not fearless. They were simply used to being afraid. And they had learned to fight anyway. Day 20 began with a funeral. The ground had opened without warning. One moment, Tan's brother was walking beside them. The next, he was gone, swallowed by a sinkhole that appeared and closed in seconds. Varka, 7, did not even let them recover the body. Priya led the memorial because no one else knew what to say. She used words from a tradition her grandmother had taught her. "We carry you with us. Your strength becomes our strength. Your memory lights our path." The surviving Kelethi bowed their heads. 5 of them remain now, plus Priya. 100 kilometers to the beacon. 10 days of walking if nothing else went wrong. Something always went wrong. They moved on. There was no other choice. Priya had been watching the Kelethi ration packs dwindle for days. The alien food was running out. She had tried feeding them what she foraged, but their digestive systems could not handle most of it. What was safe for humans was often poison for them. She started giving away her portion. Ryan noticed on day 22. Priya handed him a small package of safe roots she had found. He watched her eat something else entirely. Something she had warned them was dangerous. "You are starving yourself," he accused her quietly. "I'm monogen." She chewed the bitter plant slowly. Humans can function on reduced calories. Our ancestors survived ice ages with almost nothing. For how long? Long enough. She swallowed and kept walking. "You need the safe food more than I do. Your bodies can't adapt the way mine can. You will die, maybe." She smiled at him, thin and tired but genuine. "But I won't watch you die first." On day 24, they entered a region filled with toxic gas pockets. Invisible clouds of poison that caused rapid brain damage in most species. The Kelethi had no way to detect them. Priya could smell them, faintly, just barely. A slight change in the air that her human nose could identify. Millions of years of evolution had taught her ancestors to detect danger or die. She led the group through the maze, sniffing the air every few steps, guiding them around death itself. "How can you smell poison?" Drell asked. His wound had healed enough for him to walk now. Humans evolved surrounded by threats. Priya paused, tested the air, and turned them left. Predators, toxic plants, diseases. Our senses developed to keep us alive. Your species detected invisible death by smell alone. We also developed something called intuition, a feeling that tells us when something is wrong. She touched her stomach. "Right here. We call it gut feeling. Scientists still don't fully understand it." The Kelethi exchanged looks of disbelief. On day 26, they reached a river. The water was fast, cold, and deep. It roared between the banks with enough force to crush bones. The Kelethi looked at it with despair. "We cannot swim this," Ryan said. "Our bodies are too dense. The current would drag us under." Priya was already working. She gathered their empty packs, the waterproof containers, anything that could float. She fashioned them into a system of flotation devices. "I'll guide you across," she said. "One at a time. Hold on to the floats and kick. I'll do the rest." She went first with Drell, the weakest swimmer. The current tried to take them, but she fought it. Her arms burned. Her legs screamed. She pushed through point one by one. She brought them across. 5 trips through freezing water that sucked the heat from her body. On the final crossing, her body gave out. The current caught her. She went under, swallowed by the dark water. Her exhausted muscles refused to obey. "This is it," she thought. "This is where it ends." Then something grabbed her. Her arms wrapped around her chest and pulled. Ryan thought he was terrified. He could barely swim. The current was winning, but he did not let go. Together, they fought the river, kicking, struggling, refusing to surrender. They hit rocks and kept going. They went under and came back up. They reached the shore. Priya lay on the bank, coughing water, shaking with cold. Ryan collapsed beside her, his 4 arms trembling. "You did not have to do that," she managed to say. "You did not have to save any of us." He was gasping, his 3 lungs working overtime. "Yet here we are." She laughed, weak and broken, but real. The group helped them up, built a fire, shared what little food remained. Nobody spoke much. They did not need to. Something had changed out on day 28. They crested a ridge and saw it. The extraction beacon. A tower of light cutting through the permanent clouds. 20 kilometers away. 2 days of walking. Achievable. The Kelethi cheered. Some of them cried. Then they looked down and the cheering stopped. Between them and the beacon lay a valley. And in that valley were Varka, WIRMS. Not 2, not 10, dozens of a breeding ground. The entire valley floor was crawling with apex predators. There was no way around. The cliffs on either side were impassable. Going back would take weeks they did not have. The only path was through. Priya looked at the Valley of Death. She looked at her companions, exhausted and terrified. Then she started planning. "We go at night," she said. "We go with fire. And we go together." The Kelathi stared at her. "That's suicide," Tan whispered. "Maybe." Priya's jaw set with determination. "But I didn't come this far to stop now." The torches flickered against the darkness. Priya stood at the ridge, looking down at the Valley of Nightmares. The WYRMS were sleeping now, their massive bodies scattered across the ground like living mountains. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Behind her, the Kelathi held their torches with shaking hands. "Fire scares them," Priya said quietly. "Ambush predators hate what they can't predict. We stay together. We keep the flames up. We don't run. And if they attack anyway," Tan asked, "then we make them regret it." They began the descent. The night air was cold. The torchlight created dancing shadows that made every rock look like a monster. Priya led the group in a tight formation. Her own torch held high point one step. Then another that a WYRM stirred to their left. Its massive head rose, nostrils flaring. It saw the flames and growled low in its throat. "Keep moving," Priya whispered. "Don't look at it. Don't run." They passed within 20 meters of the creature. It watched them go, confused by the fire, uncertain if these small beings were prey or threat. That IT let them pass. Halfway through the valley, Priya allowed herself a small breath of hope. They were going to make it. They were actually going to make it. Then Drell tripped. His torch fell. The flames scattered across the ground and died. In the sudden darkness, a young WYRM saw opportunity. IT lunged. Priya moved without thinking. She put herself between Drell and the creature, jamming her torch into its face. Fire met scales. The WYRM screamed and pulled back, but the scream woke the others. All around them, massive shapes began to rise. Eyes opened in the darkness. Growls filled the air. "Run," Priya commanded. "Run." The formation broke. The Kelathi scattered toward the far ridge, torches bobbing in the darkness. Priya stayed behind, swinging her fire at anything that came close. That a WYRM snapped at Tan. Priya hurled her torch into its face. It recoiled, buying Tan precious seconds to escape. Another lunged at Ryan. She grabbed a burning branch from the ground and drove it into the creature's eye. The WYRMS were fully awake now. Angry. "Hunting. Go!" Priya screamed at Ryan. "Get them to the beacon. Not without you. I'm right behind you. Go!" He went. She fought point 3 WYRMS circled her now. She had nothing but a smoldering branch and her own stubbornness. Her body was failing. 30 days of starvation, injury, and exhaustion had taken everything she had, but she was still standing. A WYRM lunged. She dodged. Another struck. She rolled. The third caught her leg, teeth sinking in. She screamed and smashed her branch against its skull until it released her, blood everywhere. Her blood. She could barely stand. The beacon. She could see it now, glowing on the ridge ahead. The Kelathi had made it. They were safe. Good, she thought. That's good. The WYRMS closed in. Then Ryan was there. He crashed into the nearest WYRM with all four arms swinging, a torch in each hand. He was terrified. He was clumsy. He was absolutely no match for these creatures. But he was not leaving her behind. "Stupid human," he gasped, grabbing her arm. "I told you I would not leave you." Together, they ran. Priya's injured leg screamed with every step. Ryan half-carried, half-dragged her up the slope. The WRMS pursued, close enough to smell their fear. They reached the beacon's perimeter. Light exploded around them. Sonic deterrence activated, filling the air with frequencies that sent the WIRMS scattering. The creatures retreated, howling in confusion. Priya collapsed. The other Kelathi surrounded her, their hands checking her injuries, their voices calling her name. She could barely hear them through the ringing in her ears, but she was smiling. They had made it. All of them. The extraction ship arrived at dawn. Of the 200 participants who had started the training, only 37 survived. 6 of them were Priya's group. Instructor Brock was waiting at the landing site. He looked at Priya, beaten and bloody and barely conscious, and his scarred face showed something like respect. How? He asked simply. Priya opened one eye. Nobody told us we couldn't. Coalition Representative Oren reviewed the footage that evening. He watched a human woman face down WIRMS with rocks and fire. He watched her climb cliffs, cross rivers, and walk through poison. He watched her give away her food and carry others when they fell. What classification does Earth have? He asked his assistant. Class, 7 Hazard Worlds, sir. Oren watched Priya smile through 30 days of hell. Change it, he ordered. Deathworld, and reclassify humans while you're at it. To what, sir? Oren thought about it. Survivors, he said finally. Classify them as survivors. On the medical shuttle home, Priya finally allowed herself to rest. Ryan sat beside her bed, all 4 arms wrapped around himself. Were you ever actually scared? He asked. She opened her eyes. The whole time. Then how did you keep going? Scared isn't the same as stopped. She smiled, weak but real. My grandmother used to say something. You can't control the mountain. You can only control how you climb it. Ryan looked out the viewport at Varka 7, falling away behind them. He understood now. Humans were not fearless. They were not indestructible. They were simply used to being afraid. And they had learned to climb anyway. Priya closed her eyes. For the first time in 30 days, she slept peacefully. Ryan watched over her. It was the least he could do for the small, soft, terrifying creature who had carried them all through hell, and who had smiled the whole way.